It is no secret that big brands, big watch brands, recognized brands, no longer have to make an effort to reach people, to attract their clients. I would even dare to say that many brands mock their clients with the shortage of stock, with the watches they release, and above all, the prices that they sell them at. And I truly believe that big brands could learn something from some smaller brands, a David and Goliath, if you will. But what are these things? Please allow me. And for this example, I'm going to use the brand Venezianico as an example. But before I start, I really want to say the people at Venezianico are not paying for this video. They are not sponsoring this video. And both of these pieces were not sent by them. They actually don't even know that I am making this video. So for the examples, I'm going to show you this watch. This watch is the previous version of the Nereide, the dive watch. The brand was not called Venezianico, it was called Meccaniche Veneziane. This was one of the first models of the brand, and it was more of a generic diver, as you can see, actually inspired in It had a black dial, black ceramic bezel, completely generic bracelet, as you can see. It is high quality, it has solid end links, solid links, but it's generic. You can see here that it has the logo of Venezianico, but it's mostly a generic bracelet. Yes, it has a sapphire crystal with blue anti-reflective coating and a black ceramic bezel and Swiss movement, which is highly decorated, and it has some details that I really like. For example, the Italian text in the dial, and I see these details in other brands like Cartier and Jaeger-LeCoultre, where instead of automatic, they write automatique or mécanique. And that to me says I am, in that case French, in this case Italian. I am Italian, so I'm going to show my Italianness to the world. Here it says movimento automatico and subacqueo. And of course, if I read it in an Italian accent, it sounds even more Italian, but you know what I mean. Okay, now let's start with what big brands could learn from smaller brands like Venezianico. The first thing that big brands could learn would be evolution. Many brands, small or big, stay the same as history goes by. When we talk about small brands, they pay tribute to iconic models. We can call them homages. And typically smaller brands always stay in that lane. They make a homage, they make some money out of it, and they stay in that lane. There is no risk, there is no evolution, they always stay the same. Now, if you go to the lane of big brands, they never revolutionize their models. They always stay the same, they just make small changes. And I understand why. I know this is business. We are in here to make money. So we're going to go the safe route and we're going to just make some little bit of changes, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I agree. But now I want to compare the old Nereide, the old diver watch, to the new Nereide, the newer dive watch. The first thing we notice is the design evolution. This was a generic diver. You can call it what you want. It was a generic diver, inspired by one of the most iconic watches. The lines were good, the lines were refined, but when you look at this watch, you can see that the lines became refined, it became thinner. The finishes were completely improved. If you will, this watch became more Italian. Generic watch, Italian dive watch. Of course, everything has been improved. Obviously, the bracelet is different. We have no longer a generic bracelet. We have a different bracelet, if you will. We know it is inspired in the Nautilus's bracelet, but it's not a copy. It is inspired, so they designed it, they manufactured it, and now it's their own bracelet. It's easy. You can buy this in China and stick it to your watch, but it takes a lot to design and manufacture your own bracelet. Everything in this watch shows a complete evolution, and that's what I like. The brand could have comfortably kept doing this, but they didn't. So they evolved to this, which is way better, in my opinion. Now, the second thing big brands can learn from at least Venezianico is to understand your customer. Now, I know most of the times customers don't even know what they want, and that's okay, but we will start with the name, Meccaniche Veneziane. It's a really Italian name, a very industrial name, and what this means is that they used to focus on decorating the movement, which is beautifully decorated, but just decorate the movement and insert it in a generic kind of diver. So here we are. Now, regardless of the reasons why they changed the name, the one that makes the most sense to me was the connection to their customers. Now, around 85 million people in the world speak Italian. That makes it just 1% of the whole world. If you analyze it, it is a difficult name to pronounce. It's two words that are complicated, and I always remember that scene in Inglourious Basterds when the American redneck guy tries to speak Italian. So I just imagine a redneck uncle, if you will, trying to pronounce the Meccaniche Veneziane Movimento Automatico Subacqueo. It sounds weird and it doesn't create that connection that you want with the brand. Now, I understand that most people that talk in a Latin-based language, we can probably pronounce it correctly. But when we're talking about German people, French people, even American people, it's not that easy for them to pronounce. So the change from Meccaniche Veneziane to Venezianico makes a lot of sense, because phonetically it's super easy to sound out. Even your redneck uncle will say, yeah, it's the Venezianico. It sounds goofy, but it's easier to pronounce, and it creates a connection with the people that buy the brand. This was hard to pronounce and to explain people. This just rolls out of your tongue. The power of changing the name opened the doors for the brand exponentially. Now, number 3, take risks. I've said it and I'll repeat it again. Big brands do not need to take risks. People are waiting to see what big brands come up with. If they have a new release, influencers, media, and other people are waiting to talk about it. Now, smaller brands need to fight to be known for people to talk about them. Now, where does taking risk come in? Big brands always use the same 3 color dials: white, blue, and black. They always use the same material, stainless steel, some gold, if you will. But that's so generic, and I understand it. I repeat, I know that this is business. I know that we're here to make money, and we're going to go the safe way in order to be able to get the money. I get that. I can walk right now behind the camera and I can grab 2 or 3 watches that can show you how different brands do not take risks. Give me 1 second. For example, we have this Nodus. This is a basic brand, this is a small brand, but we can see the blue dial is the safe option. It's a generic diver with a blue dial, high quality, but no risk. It's just a meh watch that will fall in the same category as 99% of other dive watches from small brands. So there will be no recognition to this watch. Or you could go to a bigger brand that falls in the category that they do always just homages of watches. And I know Invicta has a lot of models, but their best watch is known because it is a homage to the Submariner. So you fall into those categories and it's really hard to get out. So how would you risk it? You play with textures, you use different materials. For example, the Musu Black, which is one of the darkest paints in the world. Tell me what other brand uses it. You won't find that on Rolex, you won't find that on Miro, you won't find that anywhere. Just like maybe Moser watches, which are thousands and thousands of dollars. Or then you go with Mother of Pearl, which is a more generic material. But look at this. Do you understand how this will pop when people see it? You use different types of texture on the dial. You use tungsten, which in the dial says tungsteno, of course. But where do you find that? Just in some Rado and maybe some vessels of Oris, and that's it. They do different sizes for different people. They do complications. They listen to the people. They say, yeah, I want a thinner watch because this was too tall. Yeah, well, no problem. We'll change the movement and we'll make it thinner. But that is the type of risk that you need to take when you need to be seen by the world. And lastly, and the most important thing, is the price. When brands apply a new material, a new movement, a new bracelet, any change to a watch, the price goes up with these changes. And again, I repeat, I understand that this is business, and if you change something, of course, it will have a cost. I'm not saying it shouldn't go up, but I believe that if there is something that we can agree on, you and me, is that 99% of the watch industry is super overpriced. They have a huge markup where it's difficult to justify the prices. When you see these types of watches, and I really respect that from the Venezianico people, I really think that the prices that they put in their watches are really fair, because you pay something and you're getting a product that is worth what you paid, or even more, because of quality, because of the movement, because of the materials. And you can justify this price because that is exactly what they need. They cannot take the risk to be like, yeah, this will cost $2,000. I don't care. Of course they care. They want their products to be sold. They don't have the history of the name. They don't have anything. The only thing that they have is the quality of their timepieces. So they need to price them accordingly to the quality. And I actually say that this could cost a little bit more. Please don't. But the quality that you get with these timepieces is higher than the price that you're paying. And that translates to you valuing and respecting your customer as a brand. And that is something that has been lost with bigger brands. They no longer respect or care about the customers. But what do you think?